now that I got my political rant out of my system, I've been meaning to do something like that, and I keep doing it and embracing it, so I figured, go big or go home. But I'm working on a bow here. It's a bow video. And what I am doing to this point, you've seen this one before, is I wound up, oh boy, it's hard to see these lines, but do you see the lines on either side? I didn't eliminate them, and in fact, I could get a little closer here, but close enough for government work, and I am going to, pretty soon, at one of these next steps, I'm going to sand them off and then redo them, making sure that they are very precise. And so it's good enough, it's close enough, it's within 32nd of an inch more or less. That's pretty good. I could just leave the bow as it is now and not even work it down to the lines. It's using my line of sight. I need to just remove a little bit just right here and right here, just the tiniest bit. Really, I should use my eyes and not lines at this point, because your eyes can be more precise than lines. In fact, change of plan. I'm not going to redraw the lines. It's symmetrical. It looks good. I'm going to do it by eye now. I can do that. I can see it goes out a little bit here. It goes out just a little bit. I got one eye. I have one eye open. A little bit here. Forget the line. But I digress. I wound up using my farrier's rasp. Because it's propeller twisted, I could only clamp it in a short bit at a time, so I can actually see what would be 90 degrees to the garbage man, to the plane of the face. I used my farrier's rasp to get it 90 degrees. Then I sanded it enough, a little sanding, so I could take my Scrab-O-Matic and thin it. At this point, I can see the finished bow is going to be that thick. And so I did it to the finished thickness of the handle, as estimated by me. Scribed the line along here, so now I have this doohickey. And add a little bit in the handle. Why not? I added 1/8 of an inch to the handle thickness. Highly technological here. Drew a line here. That far out. You know, close enough. So I've got my next attack on the thickness all lined up. Now I'm looking at it, and you see that thickness from that line to the belly, and then it kind of goes out a little bit. I do not feel like using my farrier's rasp to remove that, so I've been using my draw knife. But I've been giving myself about a growth ring of thickness, plus or minus, of insurance. I'm only removing it like a growth ring, and it works out. There's growth rings to remove on the belly as well as the back. I'm getting it down to the thickness of a growth ring, and then I will use my farrier's rasp to follow that line. Now, the dealio is, you're pretty safe using a draw knife if you're starting at the thinnest point, looking at the growth rings, and working towards the thicker portion. Your risk of tear out is a lot less. If I started draw knifing at the handle and going this way, oh boy, that would not be pretty. But as long as you're going down, I'm at a lower growth ring, I'm at a lower growth ring, I'm at a lower growth ring, you're pretty safe. Plus, I'm not doing the final thinning with my draw knife. That's scraper time, that's sanding time, that's something else time. Because there might be a knot in there that will affect growth rings, and you might get tear out. But anyway, I talk too much. What I have is just like a topo map. These are not where the actual growth rings are. I just drew those on with a Sharpie so you can see them and get some idea. This will be, because, oh, the points, if you haven't worked with a topographic map, points point downhill. That means I'm escaping this growth ring and going into a deeper one here, 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 here. The finished bow, when I talk about using growth rings like a topographic map to tailor the bow, is first, when you're changing the width, it's not as effective at changing stiffness per unit of measurement as it is removing thickness. Thickness is more effective. It has more leverage to changing the stiffness than changing the width a little bit. The finished bow will probably look like there will be the ending of a growth ring here, and now I'm into a new layer, and it's a pretty long distance. And I put the zone of nothing. It should be the zone of nothingness right there, because nothing will happen there. That's a point of greatest leverage, you know, the last 6 inches of a long bow and less with a shorter bow. Not much is happening there. You know, it could be a light tip, and because of leverage, nothing's happening there. The zone of nothingness. I could have just a single growth ring, thickness right through here, and this is the greatest distance. The next growth ring will be a little shorter distance than from here to the tip. The next one, even shorter. And then it keeps piling up. See how it's ever increasing distance here? And if I literally, on a bow that's symmetrical and has kind of a homogeneous growth ring pattern, there's no knots, and I didn't have to go out around a knot or anything like that. If it's symmetrical, measure from the center to this first one. It's even. Even. From this to number 4, even distance, and so on and so on and so on. It'll probably be pretty darn close to tiller. The only variable will be the tree grows like this. That's the top of the tree. The growth rings will be a little thicker on this side than this side. A little bit. And it depends on the tree and some other stuff. But basically, you'll have a tillered bow. Now, what I'm doing is when I'm draw knifing, I'm starting at the tip and working this way, is I'm basically just working with a draw knife, starting from this way to this way, watching the growth rings. Now, some things will happen. The reason why these growth rings form V's, and they're pointing at me, is because the tree is crowned. If it was just a flat tree or a tree, you know, 50 feet in diameter and perfectly even, when I'm doing this, I'm just going to have straight lines, perpendicular lines to the lay of the bow and the growth rings. But these things are nice, they point. And what that allows you to do is make sure that the bow is an even width, even thickness on either side. Because I keep those growth rings pointing, the points pointing at me, are centered, and I can see an even number of growth rings on either side of that V. I'm using the growth rings to guide me. And it's just as simple as this. I mean, you could sit here and watch me. Again, be careful not to jump lower. When you jump lower, going into a deeper layer, and then it comes back up again, it's lower, let's say right here, and then it's thicker right here. Oh, tear out city. But I'm just going along, watching the edge here, watching that edge, and making sure that with my dull draw knife, that I'm not digging deeper. And just kind of working my way up to the point where I'm comfortable removing that thickness by shifting this doohickey on this thingamajigger. It's like, oh, I've got an 1/8 of an inch or a little more. Get this against the stop here so when I push this way, it doesn't go swinging like a baseball bat. Working toward me. Again, keeping this angled a little bit this way. I'm exaggerating, so I'm not tearing out that other edge. And you know, when you're pushing against this edge right here and grinding away, oh boy, that will remove an eighth of an inch of Osage really quickly. And then I'll wind up knocking that, because it pointing at you, because I'm angling it this way, and from this side I'm angling it that way. I've got a hump down the center. Then, and I won't use my draw knife for this because I'm not like Dreamcraft bows who could probably take a draw knife and I've got a finished bow. Props to Dreamcraft. Is I would rather than use my farrier's rasp carefully, not making it totally flat with the farrier's rasp, because it'll tear out that back edge and then I'm in a world of hurt. Then I'll break out the orbital disc sander or a scraper, which can be the draw knife, you know, and work it down flat. Being very careful, because at every stage of narrowing it, thinning it, then narrowing it, then thinning it, then refining lines, sanding, making sure this is 90 degrees to the face, and then thinning it. Every time I need to remove less and less wood, which means when you're removing the wood at the same speed, your chances of screwing up are a lot greater. Draw knife, farrier's rasp. You see how thick this is from there to there? I could certainly, let's do this in real time. Let us do this in real time. See how long it takes to use. This was that thick area right there, and that's how fast that farrier's rasp removed that. So you see, it's quite a tool. That is all. The next time you see this bow, it'll be worked down to a nice growth ring here. I'll have the sides pretty much smoothed, and there won't be any wobbles. There's a wobble right here. I need to thin that a little bit using my eye. And then the belly will be flattened down. It'll be down there floor tiller. You know, at this point, everything works fast because I don't have to remove tons and tons of wood. That's all. That's enough.